Dear girl I used to be, I remember the weight of every day, a weight you never asked for but learned to carry far too young. A heaviness that settled in your chest before you even had the words to describe it. I'm standing here at 22 looking back on the girl who had to move through life in survival mode. The girl who smiled when it hurt, who showed up for others even when her own world was quietly breaking. You were just a child, but life demanded you to be more. It pushed you into responsibility, into resilience, into silence. From Cape Cod to New Bedford, Roxbury to Dorchester, Brighton to Cambridge, and Hyde Park to where you are now. And each move wasn't just a change of address, it was a reminder that nothing stayed. Not routines, not stability, not even peace. You learned quickly that home wasn't a place. It was a feeling you had to create yourself even when the world refused to be gentle. You watched your mother hold it all together with strength that didn't always look like strength. You saw the way she poured herself into everyone else, never asking for anything in return. And you made a decision, quietly, deeply, that you'd protect her, that you'd grow up fast if it meant that she didn't have to break anymore. You weren't just a big sister, you were a second mother to 2 girls, a protector, a witness to every sacrifice, and you vowed to make it all worth something. There were days when your dad was there later in life, around middle school, and yet the air still felt heavy, with unspoken tension. One moment he'd be laughing, offering a brief glimpse of what a father you hoped he could be. The next, the room would tighten with the weight of his frustration, even with his anger. When it wasn't directed at you, you felt it. How it echoed off the walls, how it landed hardest on your mom. You never quite knew what version of him would walk through that door, and in that uncertainty, you learned to protect yourself by shutting down, reading the room before speaking, tiptoeing around emotion, building quiet walls to keep the chaos from touching you, even if it meant you were left alone inside. You just wanted a father, whatever that looked like. Someone who would show up without reminding you what it cost. Someone who made home feel safe, but instead you taught yourself how to manage his moods, how to stay out the way, how to survive his presence the same way you once survived his absence. You kept your head down, held your breath, and carried on, because what else could you do? You were just a little girl trying to understand a love that never felt steady. And yeah, people did ask how you were, but you'd always say fine. Not because you were, but because you didn't want to add the weight others were already carrying. You felt like it was your job to hold it down, to be the glue, the breakthrough, the one in the family to change the trajectory. You wanted to see your loved ones smile again like they used to when they were young, before life got heavy. It felt like God placed you on this earth with a purpose to go after everything with fire, to build generational wealth, to bring your family together and show them that there's more to life than struggle. So yeah, you overcompensated. You overachieved. You said yes to every opportunity that came across. You joined the clubs, aced the classes, and stayed busy because maybe, just maybe, if you were exceptional enough, it would all pay off. You could give them rest, give them joy, and yet even in the wins, there was still lingering emptiness, a quiet loneliness that followed you. Because deep down, you still didn't feel like you were enough. Friends drifted. You became different. You didn't fit in like you used to. And at first it hurt. It felt like a loss, like maybe something was wrong with you. But it's because you loved hard. You showed up for people who wouldn't even have noticed if you disappeared. You poured your heart into friends who were fake, distant, and just not ready to grow. You gave your time and your energy hoping it would be enough to build something real, but it never was. And eventually you realized you already had too much to carry. You were holding the weight of your family, your future, your unspoken pain, and trying to support people who didn't even care enough about themselves to grow, let alone about you. That kind of emotional labor wasn't love, it was survival. And you were done surviving just to keep others comfortable. So you pulled back. You stopped begging for connection. You stopped showing up for people who couldn't show up for themselves. You chose to be alone, and not out of bitterness, but out of peace. Because alone you could focus. Alone you could build. Alone you could finally breathe. You could start pouring into your own craft, your own path, your own purpose. And while other teens were chasing drama, you were chasing your meaning. You didn't want chaos. You've already seen enough of that. You grew up watching drama, destroying people, draining them, and leaving nothing but regret. So you made that decision to be intentional, to be serious about your life, even if it made you feel isolated. And you weren't better than anyone. You were just done wasting time. And now, you know that wasn't loneliness, that was alignment. That was God clearing space. That was you preparing to grow into the woman you were always meant to become. And here's the truth that took time to face. You were hurting. You were overwhelmed, and that didn't make you weak, it made you human. Every time you swallowed sadness to protect someone else, every time you buried your own needs to keep others standing, you chipped away at yourself. And you didn't have the space to fall apart, so you turned that pain into purpose and silence into strength. And today, at 22, I see you. I see every sleepless night and tear you blinked away, every prayer whispered in the dark. I see the girl who wanted to make everything better without breaking. And I want her to know it's okay, you did your best and you gave everything. It's your turn to receive. You are built. To the girl I used to be, thank you for standing tall when no one told you how, for believing healing was possible, for dreaming big even when your surroundings told you to settle, for being the change even when it meant losing pieces of yourself along the way. You turned pain into power and silence into purpose. And this is just the beginning.